Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to GPVWC. It is a new season, and we are here for our third of 4 pre-season tests. It's the Superlights this time out on track at the Fuji Speedway, and what a circuit it is to do a little bit of pre-season testing. 4.5 kilometers make up this circuit that's in the shadow of Mount Fuji itself. It really is one of those special venues in racing, and also our traditional, really our traditional pre-season testing spot here in the GPVWC. I'm Tom Dillon. Alongside me for the next hour and a half or so of pre-season testing is Ross McIntyre. And Ross, I'm going to address the elephant in the room straight away, and that is that unfortunately we haven't got that many cars out on track. This test has been going on for about an hour and a half now already. It's a few hours long. About an hour ago. Since 4 even, so this test has been going on for a very long time. Sorry, getting all mixed up. So most people have done their laps already, is my point, but we've still got a fair few people here.
Yeah, as you said, it's been a long day of testing so far, And, well, not that many people out on track at the moment, but we're hoping that we'll get some more action. But again, this is pre-season testing. It's not about the racing. It's about sitting down, discussing what's to look forward to across 2024. And, you know, drivers going out there, seeing what they can do. We've got some new drivers out in the field. We've got some new faces, new teams out there, teams testing different parts for their Superlights machines as well. So, well, I don't think we'll be seeing any lap times setting the world on fire. I don't think we'll be seeing anybody, you know, pushing 100%. This is more just to kind of slowly roll into the new GPVWC season. Of course, these guys have probably been doing lots and lots of private testing themselves on their own computers, you know, on private servers. This is about everyone coming together and just giving everyone the first little look at what everyone's bringing to the table across 2024. With just under an hour and a half left to run, is Joseph Hurlock for Vale Esports currently on the top of the timing sheet with a 1:18.307. The man we're looking at the moment, Harry Smith, in the Rotor Formula car. He's currently P2, 1.1 seconds away from that lap time. Again, nobody really pushing at the moment because we have quite a big field spread as it stands. We've only got 7 cars out on track at the moment with 10 cars in the session as it stands, and you can see those 10 cars in the top left of your screen. That is Joseph Hurlock, Harry Smith, Willis, Wasserman, Van der Voort, Sikoria, Zanini, Sandeep Singh, Davidjan and Jack Mayer. The 10 drivers currently with us at the moment. Hopefully we'll be seeing some more across the rest of the session. As there goes Harry Smith put through some of the other cars. That seems to just be a yellow cheese block of a motor in the background. Clearly R-Factor 2 not liking all of the liveries that have been created so far. But as they head down the first straight, you said earlier, Tom, that it's the this track, it's the traditional pre-season testing circuit for GPVWC. And, you know, it's clear to see why. It's a brilliant circuit here at Fuji. Obviously, it creates exciting racing when you are racing, but importantly for the teams, it's a really good track to test at. You know, there's lots of different combinations of corners. You've got your high speed, your slow speed. There's lots of camber changes and, you know, different kind of rises and dips all across the circuit. So they'll be picking up lots of really good data around here, and the drivers as well will be really getting to grips with the cars properly with everybody else out on circuit. You know, this is an important time for these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm not quite as much of a fan of Fuji as you seem to be. I absolutely despise this track. I think it is absolutely awful. But
yeah, it's each to their own.
Yeah, the important thing is that the drivers, it's a little bit of a mix of downforce, low downforce, high downforce on this circuit, which is really what you want from a testing track. I think, you know, you think of Catalonia, you think of Bahrain. There's 2 tracks that have got, you know, lots of high downforce sections, but also sections where you really get to let the, you know, the engine do its work, and that's what you get from Fuji. You've got a lot of windy bits through Sector 1 and Sector 2, and then down the straight, you've got that massive straight. It is huge. I don't have the exact stat in front of me, but it's one of the longest straights that has ever been run in Formula 1. It's one of the longest straights, I think, on FIA Grade 1 circuit, so it really is a very long straight, and that gives the engines that chance to really breathe. And obviously for the teams, that gives them the chance as well to try and test where their engines are at and sort of how much speed they can extract out of that car whilst also being fast through the corners.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the subject of engines, as we can see at the moment, at the top of the timing sheets is Hurlock in P1, but Harry Smith in P2 in the Rotor Formula car. Those are the guys that everyone's going to have their eyes on at the moment. Of course, the defending champions from last year with 10 race wins to their name. Owen McGorgy absolutely dominated. He dominated so much that he didn't even bother showing up for the final 3 races in Japan, Yas Marina and Sao Paulo, and he still won the title by 38 points. 2 DNFs, 1 finish outside of the podium places, and every other race was a win or a P2. Phenomenal performance from him last year. And the Road to Formula guys, team owner Sandeep Singh, he's currently in the pit lane. As I said, those guys are the ones to watch. We'll be waiting to see what they can do. But it is currently Joseph Hurlock for Vale Esports, sat on top of the 8th table. They finished in P6 last season, had a very respectable performance overall. Vale have, you know, they're one of those teams that are just everywhere. You know, R-Factor 2 Esports, every championship, every series, there's always a car out there in the representing that yellow Italian squad. And Joseph Herlock, we know he's very, very handy behind the wheel, and you can see that on the timing sheets. I want to, 1.1 seconds to the good at the moment. But again, we don't know what tyres these guys are running. We don't know what their testing plan is, if they're going out for, lap times, or if they're going out just to do reliability runs and things like that. So we'll have to wait and see. But this is a promising start for Valiant Esports. Hopefully they'll be able to capitalise on that. We'd love to see them move up towards the front end of the pack here in the Superlights series. Of course, if you're new to GPVWC, you're just watching your first preseason test. This is the Superlights, the second tier on the GPVWC career ladder. And this is where you really start to see some of the best in sim racing. And, these are the guys vying for a seat at the top of the table in the top championship, the Super League. And, I'm going to be interested to see how the remaining hour and 20 minutes of this test runs. Herlock still running very competitive lap times at the moment, at 118.922. Was the last time. Harry Smith has closed the gap slightly. It's now under a second, 9/10. So maybe Roads Formula guys trying to turn up the pace. And as I say that, he's teleported his way back into the pits by the looks of things. So that was Ben Willis, apologies, who appears to have dived back into the pit lane, and Harry Smith as well. So those two guys both coming back in, as Tom van der Voort for Drake Racing now makes his way out onto the circuit. Again, a few new teams, new names in FS or FS2 this year, or Superlight should I say. Drake Racing, a very historic team in GPVWC. They go all the way back to 2010, which in sim racing terms is basically ancient. And Tom van der Voort, his third season for the team, and he'll be looking to improve from last year and in 2023. Jan Dragoon is set to be the driver alongside him. He is not with us at the moment, but he's very well seasoned in Assetto Corsa. I can tell you that much from my knowledge of Assetto Corsa championships. And the Czech driver had a very good FS1 last year for Owen GP. And we'll have to see what he can do this season for Drake Racing. And as we continue to follow around Van der Voort, it's a green first sector for him, a little bit off in the middle sector. That is the tight and twisty stuff as you're heading back up the hill. So that's where you're really testing the low and the medium speed of the car. It's all about mechanical grip through those sections, the first sector, and obviously that big winding final corner. They are the fast parts that it's all about downforce and engine power. And that big long run, as you mentioned, Tom, down into turn one. A very, very long straight indeed, as we see Van der Voort on that now. Comes to the line, let's have a look at the lap time, and it is a improvement for him by the looks of things. He sets a 119.775 there, but his final two sectors not particularly strong, a little way off of Joseph Herlock's fastest lap at the moment. But again, everyone just seems to be either doing race runs or just reliability runs at the moment. Let's talk about the calendar for this year, shall we? It's not much of a change from last season. First race on the 12th of March, we'll be heading over to Melbourne, then Jeddah on the 26th of March, and then we're off to Japan, but not to Fuji. We're going to Suzuka on the 9th of April, followed by Shanghai, San Marino, and Montreal. Then the spring break across the first week of June, followed by Barcelona, then Austria, then Silverstone, and then we've switched up the German tracks from the Nürburgring to the Hockenheim ring this year. And of course off to Spa, then the big summer break for the majority of August, and then over to Monza, Baku, Singapore. The US rejoins the calendar. We'll be heading over to Austin on the 22nd of October for the penultimate round of the season, and as always we'll be finishing off in Sao Paulo, the traditional end for GPVWC racing. So very interesting calendar there. Good mix of mainly high-speed circuits, should I say, but a few street tracks in there as well. And then you've got the back-to-back of Baku and Singapore, two very different street circuits at that. Singapore, though, always exciting in GPVWC. There's always drama and chaos there. The first half of the season, though, very, very fast. You've got Melbourne, Jeddah, Suzuka, Shanghai, Imola, and Montreal all on the run into the spring break, should I say. Very, very fast tracks there, a mix of high and medium speed corners throughout, and obviously the Jeddah street circuit as well. Very, very fast through there. So the first stretch of the season is all going to be about the high downforce, the power, what you can do in the fast stuff. As there we see Jack Mayer for Spark Racing, a very accomplished driver around these parts. He's currently in P4, but a green middle sector for him, but 4/10 off of Herlock's time. Getting a bit of slipstream down the straight there. So he should improve this lap Target time, of course, a 118.307. It's not going to quite be that, but it does move him up into P2, a 119.143. That slipstream definitely giving him a bit of a boost in the final sector as he almost matched Herlock's time through there, who has the purple sector, and there through he goes, Jack Mayer. So an interesting calendar to look forward to, of course. Many new faces in Superlights as we've got drivers moving up and down the calendar, but we'll have to wait and see how it's all going to go. An interesting team to note, Chaos Motorsports. A new team to the GPVWC ladder, as that's a purple first sector from Jack Mayer, so he's turned the wick up. Chaos, they're owned by Florian Guy, who's a Super League race winner. He's decided to step back down into Superlights this season after a fair few years in the top tier. I had a bit of a disappointing season last year, unfortunately, did Florian. Decided maybe he just wants to run his own team, maybe he wants to just reinvent himself, and see what he can do in Superlights. So that'll definitely be a team to watch out for. Spark Racing as well, a very, very competitive outfit. They've been promoted up into the Superlights tier this year after being runners-up in Formula Sprint 1 last season. Vincent Gutt, the team owner, he'll be the other driver for them, alongside Jack Mayer. Again, very competitive driver, the champion of Formula Sprint 1 last season, where he had a dominant series almost to the likes of Owen McGorgy in Superlights. So he'll be looking to have a very impressive 2024. And as we continue to follow May around, we'll have to wait and see what Spark Racing can do, what Jack Mayer can do. A very competitive team, two very, very fast drivers behind the wheel. And it should be interesting to see what they can do. Again, Jack, as I said, very competitive driver. And, well, he certainly knows how to pedal, shall we say. But all these guys out there, 1 hour, 16 minutes left on the car, and just been told the team that looks like the school bus, the yellow team, that is Chaos Motorsport. They just, unfortunately, they did not prepare a livery for pre-season, so they're just running a testing livery. As Sandeep Singh now, wow, very competitive from Sandeep Singh. He's now turning the wick up. That's 2 purple sectors and a very, very strong lap time, and you can see how much he's pushing into the penultimate corner at the rear of the car. Really getting out of shape as he puts his foot down. We'll have to see what the lap time is as he comes to the line. But we know Tom, Sandeep, he's a very, very quick driver. The team very, very strong as well, as he goes fastest by 0.7 of a second. And, well, going to be interesting to see whether Road to Formula can have another dominant season.
Yeah, well, obviously the 3 podiums last year for Sandeep, one of those drivers that I think will really want to kick on and start to think about getting himself into that championship contention as we head into the year 2024. But right now, well, he's doing a good job. He's topped that championship. I think Road to Formula as well, sort of team that you almost would have expected to get into Super League this season. Ross, certainly something that I imagine would have been one of their aspirations, but as it is, they're here trying to defend their Superlights crown, make it 2 in a row, and that would be, I imagine, quite difficult. But Sandeep's certainly the driver that will want to try and sort of lead that charge, especially getting himself up into that top 3. Finished 4th last season, only by 2 points, albeit, but he was quite a ways down from our championship leader. But I'd make that about 70 points roughly. He was behind on the championship, which isn't ideal when you're trying to be one of those forerunners in the championship, having to settle for finishing in that sort of 4th spot. And I think for him, the key, really getting himself onto that podium a little bit more. I mean, you look at the top 3, a lot of them actually found themselves having quite consistent podiums. Heiko Poom didn't have that many actually in the grand scheme of things, but he did put together a decent run at Belgium and Italy, and then in Brazil as well, getting himself that race win. And then if you look at someone like Dylan Platt, who was on the podium a fair few times as well last season, he had I think pretty much predominantly top 5 finishes, and then about 5 or 6 podiums. And then obviously Owen McGorgy, which is a bit of a freak last year, only finishing once when he did finish a race outside of the podium spots. So I think that's really possibly the key for Sandeep here, making sure that he's in those podium spots more consistently, and he'll be able to find his way through. Right now, though, this is a very, very encouraging start. And I think, we always say the whole thing in Formula 1, you can't read too much into testing times. I'm not too certain that rings true when you get a sim racing situation like this one. I think very much the drivers are using this to see where their pace is more than anything. I don't buy that these teams run to specific run plans and things like that. They might say, okay, over the course of the 6 hours or so, I'm going to make sure that I do a race run, for example. But I think a lot of this is actually hot lapping.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, the lap times are starting to creep down, especially as the circuit is the best it's been all day, given the just the constant running we've had over it. And you've got to remember as well, in sim racing, it's, as you said, it's not like Formula 1. You can't really restrict your testing. These guys will have been pounding in the laps in private servers all over the winter, obviously not just in these cars but in the old cars as well from last season, just keeping their skills up. Many of them probably would have been off competing in other championships as well to just keep their skills up and going. Sim racing, it never sleeps, as now Ben Willis with the fastest middle sector, so I think people are now starting to push. Willis is on a softer compound of tyres than the other runners at the moment. You can tell from the red sidewalls that is the C4 compound, if I am correct. As he rounds the point as the C5, actually, I've just been told in my ear. Or C5, I've just been told in my ear, should I say. So C4 or C5 is on some of the fastest tyres. We'll see as he comes to the line now, but a very good opening few sectors and a fantastic final sector there to go 1.2 seconds clear. Ben Willis lays down the gauntlet for Alpha Sierra Sim Racing, his first real flying lap that we've seen on the broadcast so far. Again, this test has been running for a fair few hours at this point. We did have more drivers in earlier as well, and we're getting more individuals joining the session as well, up to 13 drivers now, which is good to see. McCready, Deziu and Bulio all joining our ranks, as there we see Stefan McCready for Drake Racing, and he's just dipped a wheel into the grass. A lovely little pirouette there, showing off his acrobatics. That's not going to do his tyres or his lap time any good, but well, certainly shows that he's got his car control under his belt. Yeah, just dipped a wheel in the grass there. A little bit unfortunate. Again, it's just testing, so it's not the end of the world if you do have a spin or a crash. You can just reset and go again. But McCready, well, obviously it is a green middle sector for him. It's the first lap time that he's put in, but this won't be a competitive lap time by any means. Following that spin, I'll have to reset and go again, this time by with 1 hour and 11 minutes, or just over 11 minutes remaining in the session. Going to be interested to see how all of the other drivers do. Hopefully McCready can set a competitive lap time this time. Remco de Joux and Maxime Buehler, those are two, and I'm going to be interested to see as they come through. Two competitive drivers, to say the least, for that team, and we'll have to see what they can do. Fusion Racing, they had a good start to 2023. Liam Duval took 2 podiums, but unfortunately he just lost a bit of interest in the championship, just didn't quite have the commitment that he wanted to, and it unfortunately just didn't quite go their way, and the team had a bit of a downturn following those podiums. But Remco de Joux, a very, very strong diver indeed, but again, a disappointing 2023 for him, retiring from 8 races, a few crashes, a few disconnects there. Maxime Buehler, well, a strong driver indeed, a fantastic FF2 campaign, runner-up to Luke Mitchell in that one, and he'll be looking to get back into Superlights. He did do a few races last season as we got on board with Maxime, the Canadian driver. As I said, a few podium, or a few strong races, should I say, in Superlights last season. I was like, ooh, car heavily into the barrier there on the inside. I believe that was Harry Smith in the Rotor Formula car. Oh no, it was Stefan McCready again, I believe. So McCready, not the greatest start to this session in the world, as Bulio starts their first flying lap after a, well, shall we say, not a slow out lap or first lap, but one which leaves a lot on the table. But let's follow Buehler on board around here at Fuji, climbing up to 260 kilometers an hour before downshift, a flick of the wheel through a very precarious left-hander over the crest, and the car seemingly not quite fully warmed up yet, still a little bit shaky coming through the corners, a few micro corrections needing to be made. Giulio does have a very aggressive driving style, so part of it will be that, but as well, it just looks like the car maybe not quite fully up to temperature yet. And you can tell that as well. The first sector 1.4 tenths down, and the second sector, although green, another 1.3 away, so still time on the table for the Fusion Racing driver. Coming through the final sector now, the tight and the twisty. This is a very, very awkward complex. This is where Felipe Massa and Robert Kubica were banging wheels all throughout the Formula 1 race in the torrential rain, if you can cast your mind back that far. And onto the main straight. Not a great exit from the final corner, but that's an onboard lap around here at Fuji in the GPVWC Superlights Preseason Testing session. Hello and welcome. If you have just joined us, you are just in time for just over the last hour here in the GPVWC Superlights Preseason Test, where the drivers are all just seeing where they stack up amongst each other as we follow Joshua Dexter now for TTF Racing, a team that will be looking to have a stronger 2024. Dexter, another very strong driver. I mean, they're all strong drivers. This is Superlights. It's the second tier of GPVWC. This is some of the finest sim races in the world, and only the tier below the GPVWC Super League World Championship. And Dexter being hounded and chased down by one of the Drag Racing cars there. These guys, they won't be looking to be racing too much. Again, it is only testing. They're not maybe going to be going wheel to wheel, but you will have to overtake if you have to, as Dexter does run very wide, so that'll allow the Drag Racing pair through surely as they come down the main straight. Let's talk about last year, Tom. We had, well, a dominant year for Oyama. As we are well aware, the Road to Formula driver romped his way to the title. We had a few interesting stories throughout the season. Of course, we had Christian Pasquale only entering a few races and picking up a win and a podium in there. We had the likes of Fabrizio Gobi picking up the win in Jeddah and another win in Singapore as well. A bit of a street track merchant there, but a strong season for him nonetheless. A few strong performances from a lot of drivers, and we did have a lot of drivers. We had 68 drivers enter a Superlights race last season. But of course, it was all about Oyama, and the likes of us. Dexter runs a little bit wide there. Dylan Fisher, second in the championship with only one win to his name, but his pure consistency, similar with Hygo Poom. Poom was P3 in the championship. He didn't pick up a win until the final round at Sao Paulo, but his just supreme consistency all throughout the year got him those championship points. Sandeep Singh was P4 in the end as well. Again, one win for him, but great consistency. A DNF in Belgium, unfortunately, unravelled his hopes for P3, missed out by just a few points. So the aim of the game last year is, if your name wasn't Oyama, it was basically just try and be as consistent as you can and try and pick up the championship points. Obviously, Magorgi, he's moved on to bigger and better things up in the Super League. So this year, you know, no reigning champion on the grid. It's going to be interesting. Is there any particular driver that you've got your eye on? Maybe any particular team that you're looking at and thinking they could be quite tasty across 2024?
Well, I'm quite interested, albeit a little bit bitter, to see how Mateusz Piszkan can get on over the course of this next season, Ross. Because honestly, you know, he's signed very, very late. He's done the pre-season test here, I imagine, at some point today, though. Of course, we don't have his times. He was obviously supposed to be racing for myself throughout the course of this year, but got that opportunity to go and race inside of Super League Lights, or Super Lights, whatever you want to call it here. And you know, it'll be interesting to see what he can do if he can make the step up. I don't class him as a championship competitor, so to speak, but I do certainly class him as someone who potentially is going to come in and upset the ante a little bit over the course of the next 8 months or so. However, I think, as I said earlier, the name of the game here for sort of top 3 runners, or the people who want to be in that top 3, has got to be just trying to get onto that podium. You know, making sure that they can consistently do that. I think, you know, consistent top 5s has to be the minimum. But when you haven't got someone dominating the championship like Owen McGaugy, you don't quite know how it's going to run. You don't quite know who's going to step up and fill that spot. And so at least in the early stages, you've got to make sure you're hitting the ground running and getting onto that podium very, very early, and making sure that you stay in and around that top 5 pretty consistently. If you're a driver, so say for instance Sandeep Singh, who I think would, you'd probably agree, would class himself as a championship contender at some point this season. If he goes into the first couple of rounds this season and he has a couple of DNFs, he has an 11th place finish or something like that, maybe because the strategy doesn't quite work, all of a sudden you're playing catch up for the rest of the season, so you need to make sure you hit the ground early.
Absolutely. I think Sandeep is definitely one to watch this year. Again, a very, very strong season for the Road to Formula team owner last season. Speaking with him at GPVWC Day back at the back end of 2023, as he does drop the car, similar to what we saw from McCready earlier, just dipping a wheel into the grass on the outside of that left-hander. And that's a shame for him. He had a purple first sector there, so leading to reset and go again. But yeah, speaking to him at a GPVWC Day at the back end of last year, he was very, very calm, very, very confident looking forward into this season. You can tell, he's hungry for more. He wants to be challenging for the title. We'll have to wait and see what he can do. I think Valet Esports could definitely be an interesting team to watch this season as well. Obviously, Joseph Herlock was very, very fast last year, but possibly had the worst luck in the world. So many internet disconnections, and those things, unfortunately, are out of your hands. It's almost a bit like a reliability issue in a real-world racing car. Those things you just cannot avoid. Sometimes they happen, and Joseph Herlock multiple times was running in a strong position and then found himself down and out after his internet connection failed him. Hopefully, he's been able to sort that over the off-season. And, he can really show what he can do if he's able to stay in all of the races all the way through. And partnering him this year will be Alessandro Maggio, who had a titanic rise up through GPVWC in 2023. He did the last 4 races of the season, took pole position at Interlagos, 3 races in the points with a 4th place in Monza as well. He was a winner for Valet in the Academy Series over in FSR. So he'll be looking to come into GPVWC Superlights and really prove what he can do after those really, really strong 4 races. And again, those familiar with the FSR Championship know he's a very, very strong driver. So I think the Valet squad could definitely be one to watch. Again, the Italian team, that they crop up everywhere. They're always everywhere in sim racing and always do very, very well. But I think this year, in Superlights, they've potentially got something quite special on their hands. So we'll have to wait and see. Jack Mayer, of course, another driver to keep an eye on as well. I mean, all of these guys are very, very fast. All of them have potentials there. We do see Jack Mayer for Spark Racing. He'll be looking for a strong season as well. But yeah, for me, I think, Tom, it's Road to Formula are definitely the favourites once again. But Valet Esports, I think, for me, they could be your dark horses. They're definitely one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely, and Valet, one of those teams, as you said, they've been in and around for quite a few years now. They've always been doing the sort of endurance leagues and stuff, and they have focused actually a lot more on the mainstream sort of leagues, your quote-unquote official leagues like VEC, although, that's the landscape of that has changed a little bit over the last couple of years or so with the Le Mans Virtual Series and things like that. But, your sort of traditional big name leagues like VEC, they've been sort of attacking those and now sort of chipping away at GPVWC as well in the career ladder. And they didn't have a great season last time out. I know we mentioned them a little bit earlier on, but they, finished 6th position. It's not ideal. They're a sort of team that wants to be pushing into the top 3. And I think when I say it's not ideal, I say that because of the gap to the top 3, the gap to the, the top 4 even. They were only about 10 points down the top 4, but they were a couple 100 points behind on the top 3, and that's a major concern for them because that's a big jump. And Maggio's an exciting driver. To be honest with you, his rise hasn't really been something that I've charted. He was, I used to race him quite a bit back in 2020, 2019 sort of time, and we started sim racing roughly at the same time, if I'm correct, and we were both sort of on pace for a while. And I always classed Maggio as this kind of driver who's decent, but he's not going to be winning championships anytime soon or anything like that. So to hear that he's gone away, worked on his game, so to speak, and got himself into now Superlights, got himself into a successful position inside of FSR as well, which is no mean feat. GPV and FSR, the two, very, very competitive leagues inside of R2 esports right now, and have been for numerous years. to actually go away and work on himself and get himself into a position where now we're chatting about him as one of the exciting prospects in the second tier of the career ladder. That's pretty good. That's pretty good for him.
Absolutely. So he's had a rapid rise throughout 2023. As you said, he's really put in the work. And it'll be interesting to see how he can do as we're on board with Davide Zanini as he makes his way through the twisty part of the final sector before he makes his way up the hill to the final corner and then that steep drop back down again. Very, very awkward part of the circuit this. You've got to be really, really patient with the car and just let the corner flow and let the car do the work. And it's probably quite boring coming through there sometimes. These machines, these Superlights cars are ridiculously fast. But even sometimes in these things you've got to be patient and just got to let the car drift around the corners and just wait on the throttle pedal, wait to get going once again. Zanini goes up to P3, got a very strong lap time there, a 1:17.412. That puts him a second away from Willis at the top of the sheets as it stands. Now, another interesting thing we need to consider heading into this season, as a little bit out of shape there from Zanini. Obviously, we don't doubt any of the commitment from any of these drivers. These are fantastic sim racers who, come through and, put so much effort to their craft. But with the impending release of Le Mans Ultimate coming up, I think that is potentially something which could maybe... Yeah, it is already out, should I say, in early access. But when the game is fully released and when, it finally gets the league support and all of that, you've got the likes of, the Virtual Endurance Championship and the Virtual Le Mans Series. They'll obviously be moving on over onto Le Mans Ultimate. And, that could be something that is maybe a bit tempting for some of these drivers. So that could be something to watch out for if any of these drivers are tempted over to, try their hand at some endurance racing. Of course, many of these drivers already do compete in endurance leagues around, but for most of them, GPVWC is very much the first and foremost league. But that could be interesting to see if anyone gets tempted over to there. And, maybe it just hurts their commitment to GPVWC a little bit. Because I don't think anybody really expected Le Mans Ultimate to, be as good as it seemingly is on the releases, or as the reviews are saying as it's coming out. Obviously, it is built off of the RF2 engine. It's very, very similar to R-Factor 2 and how it drives, I've been told. I haven't had the chance to give it a go yet myself, but I've been reliably informed it does a very, very good job of what it's representing. And again, being based off the RF2 engine, it will drive very, very similar to R-Factor 2, the simulator that we use here in GPVWC. So after I see there's just that looked like a solitary rear wheel just off on the gravel trap there. Hopefully everyone's okay and has not had a big off as we continue going around with Sandeep Singh. Again, a driver who will be looking to have a phenomenal season this year.
I've driven actually quite a bit of Le Mans Ultimate over the last week or so since it, I'd say week, it released the week ago today. I bought it the day after release to try and give it a go. As soon as I found out that it worked, I was like, okay, this is good. And I'd say more than it's built off the R-Factor 2 engine. I would say it is literally R-Factor 2. There is nothing in that game that says to me this is anything different to R-Factor 2, and so I don't really see it necessarily as competition to RF2. And I don't think it will tempt drivers away. As I said, there's no substantial difference. You take the LMP2, I've driven a lot of the LMP2 in R-Factor 2, and the LMP2 is functionally the same car as it is in R-Factor 2. Exactly how it drives. The only difference is the balance of performance, but that could quite easily be reflected in R-Factor 2. So I don't really see it. I see it as a bit of a non-issue, really, in terms of competing with GPVWC, because I think it will continue to be seen as a little bit of effectively an R-Factor 2. So it will just be seen as an extension, in the same way that people don't see VEC as competition to GPVWC. I don't think this new game will do any of that. But a couple of questions that I think we should address inside of the chat. Alice says, why are there so few teams in SL2? It's because this test has been going on since 4 o'clock this afternoon. So there's actually it's just been answered for me, but yeah, most teams did it this morning, not this morning, or this late afternoon or so, and that's why we've got supposedly little teams. We actually haven't. Everyone's been here, everyone's set their laps. However, we're in a situation where we're at the end of the test, and so you've just got your last few trying to get the most out of what will be a rubber-up track, but also a track that is pretty clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, make sure you keep putting any questions that you have in the YouTube chat, both Tom and myself. Oh, more than happy to answer them.
If you don't mind me.
No, be my guest.
Ross, is that actually, I think, right now I'm making a little bit of an assumption here without having seen the server settings, that Real Road is unnaturally progressing. You could argue that there is less of a incentive to run at this time than there would be at any other time in the session. You know, early in the session, you've got a very green track, there's not a lot of grip, the drivers struggle a little bit. That's quite representative of the sort of thing you would have at the start of a practice session, for example, because the way it works, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, the way it works is, at least it used to work when I used to race GPVWC, that in practice, the track starts effectively. So you've got a green track in practice, rubbers up during practice, and then through qualifying it progresses as well. So, in theory, when you get to about half an hour into the test, an hour into the test, that's the condition where you're actually representative of what a track will look like in a racing condition inside of Super League lights, or Super Lights, I should say, before I get told off for using out-of-date terms. But that's what a track would look like in Super Lights. Whereas right now, you've had, how long has it been since 4 o'clock? We're approaching on 6 hours now, and it will be 6 hours by the end of the test. The track is absolutely rubbered in. You know, the track is as good as it's ever going to be, and you're actually more akin to what you get in an endurance race, and that arguably is going to be less helpful to the teams, because you're driving faster lap times than you'd ever get in racing conditions, because the track is completely rubbered up. And of course it's not totally linear like it is in real life. You know, it's not going to go on forever. There is a point where the track has got maximum rubber. However, I don't believe we ever really get to that inside, for at least not for a substantial time, inside of an SL2 race. So that might be another reason why everyone got their laps in earlier.
Potentially. Again, as you said, at this point, the track is very rubbered in, but, you know, it's a long test. We've been going since 4 p.m. GMT. It's currently 9 GMT with still 51 minutes left to run in the session. We always got to remember as well that, you know, the likes of Maxime Bulio and the guys from across the pond, you know, over in Canada and the US, those guys, it's probably a bit more convenient for them to be running at these times on a Tuesday evening or afternoon for them than it would be, you know, to hop on first thing in the morning and try and get some realistic running. So, well, yes, it's maybe not the perfect representation of the track. It's still a chance for these guys to go out and just show what they can do, and especially for the guys who are behind us here in the UK, then it's just a little bit easier as well. And again, anybody who's further ahead in the UK, where it's now getting very late into the night, they would have done all their running much earlier on, because they should all be sound asleep by now, assuming that they have healthy sleep schedules. No. Not judging anybody if they don't, of course, but as Tom van der Voort, a very strong lap time there from the Dre Racing driver. Purple first sector, green middle sector. This should be fastest lap of the session so far. Comes to the line of 16.3 to beat. He sets a 16.1 with the purple final sector as well. Van der Voort now to the top of the timing sheets with 50 minutes left to run. So even though the track is at 100%, the times are still tumbling. Again, as Van der Voort gets it wrong and doesn't quite hold it. Unfortunately, doesn't quite have the pirouette skills of his teammate McCready, but did set a lap time that was very strong beforehand, so I'm sure he's not too upset about that. But again, the way that this test is supposed to work is that you were supposed to set a certain amount of laps on a certain amount of fuel, all under a specific lap time, in order just to show, you know, you have what it takes. For these drivers, it's all just, you know, trivial stuff. Once you've done that, you can essentially go out on low fuel running on the softer tyres and try and bang in some lap times, as we had seen the likes of Van der Voort, Willis and Zanini do now. So, you know, these guys are now almost on qualifying runs, I'd like to say. So, you know, they're doing a few lap times on the C5 or the C4 tyres on low fuel runs, and going out there and really just banging out the times as they can, and that's why we're starting to see a few mistakes creeping in, as well as drivers are starting to push the limits. Again, Fuji, although it's the traditional pre-season testing track, it's a track that's not on the GPVWC calendar and hasn't been for quite some time, so maybe not so familiar to the drivers as some of the other circuits will be. So maybe just a little bit of unconfidence in the track there, making a few mistakes and the like. Van der Voort, that spin cost him about 14 seconds, even more than 14 seconds should I say, but he's coming into the pits anyway after that spin, so we are probably sticking a little bit more fuel in the car, another set of rubber, and making his way back out. But a very, very fast lap time there from Van der Voort as it goes. Got some support for True North Racing in the chat from Carter McColeman. Great to see the Canadian team, formerly known as TCS Off, getting some support. They've just had a bit of a rebrand during the off-season. Of course, Carter McColeman, the team owner, deciding that the time was right to, fully represent Canada here in GPVWC. They had a great year last year, 5th in Formula Sprint 1 after a runner-up in the same series in the season prior. Entering Super with an all-new driver lineup with Masej Heiler and Mateusz Pizkan, who both had very, very strong in Formula Sprint 1 and Formula Sprint 2 last season. It's going to be interesting to see how they are going to compete in their first Superlights season. We'll have to wait and see. McCready as well, currently P8, his teammate on top of the timing sheet. So we'll have to wait and see what the Welsh team can do. McCready, of course, he's just testing at the moment. He is not the other driver who will be in the car during the season proper. That'll be the Czech Republic's Jan Dragoon, a very, very quick driver indeed. But McCready doing a very good job testing for the team at the moment, currently P8, and again showing off some fantastic acrobatics earlier on in the session. He's running on that'll either be the C2 or the C1 tyres, the hardest compounded tyres that we have here in Superlights. So he's not going to be setting the world on fire with his lap times anytime soon. But again, as we've been seeing with a few of the drivers as the session goes on, starting to take fuel out of the car, stick some softer rubber on it, and just pedal to the metal and see what they can do. McCready will come to the line. Looks like it's probably going to be around about a 1 minute 19, 1 minute 20 lap time, and indeed it is a 1:20.725. A bit of a disappointing final sector there, maybe a mistake just creeping in, but again, he's been on a long run for quite some time, onto harder compounded tyres. There'll be a lot of fuel in that car as well. He's going long towards the end of this session, and again, he is not the team's regular driver for the season. He is just in the test in place of Jan Dragoon, who I'm very excited to see what he can do here in Superlights. Dragoon, I know, is a very, very quick driver, very, very capable, fantastic racecraft as well. So he'll be excited to see him. McCready doing a good job at the moment, as there's Remco de Joux. And again, Fusion Racing, they joined the session quite late, so they will be doing their set laps at the moment. I believe the target lap time you have to beat is 1:28 across all of your set laps. Those are the only regulations for this test. Very, very easy for all of these drivers when you consider the current best lap time as a 1:16. But so de Joux just getting his laps out of the way, and then of course I'm sure we'll be seeing him sticking on the softer rubber and moving forward later on in the session. Similar thing with his teammate Maxime Boulet, also joining the session late. The Fusion Racing guys both deciding to hop on at the same time, and maybe have a bit of teamwork. They'll be on the voice chat, probably with their engineers or the team boss, and just discussing things over as they get their pre-season testing for 2024 underway. 45 minutes left in this session. Again, it's not far to go, Tom, until we get to our first race in Australia. That'll be on the 12th of March as we head to the Albert Park Street Circuit. A little bit different from Fuji, so maybe a bit of a shake-up in the order, but it's a track that we're all fairly used to here in GPVWC. We do like to go there occasionally. Last year, Oyama took a storming victory on his way again to that ever-dominant championship. And we had a few strong results there. Sandy Singh finished 7th there last year, so he'll be looking to improve on that one. Herlock, unfortunately, that was the first race that he didn't make. He was a DNS in that one, but we'll have to wait and see what he's going to be able to do in Australia this season last year, Imola was the first round of the championship. That's now moved to later in the series. We've put Australia up into the first race, akin to the older Formula 1 season, shall we say, then Jeddah, second race, 26th of March. That is going to be an interesting one. I mean, Jeddah, Tom, it's such a unique circuit. You know, it's obviously it's the street circuit nature of it. You've got no runoff, but it's so fast around there. That's probably going to be one of the biggest challenges for the drivers this season.
Well, it's unique in the sense in the context of the GPV calendar. That's for certain. But yeah, I mean, obviously we've got a few Formula 1 tracks now that are quite similar in vein to Jeddah, but yeah, it'll be an interesting one. I think we've run a couple of times now, so most of the teams will have their setups for that. That's another thing. You can sort of use setups from last year, I would imagine, inside of this year. The cars are slightly different, but you can at least use that as a platform to build on. There shouldn't have been any parameters that have changed or anything. So the teams nowadays won't have too many problems setting up that car for Jeddah, because they know roughly around the way that they're supposed to go. But I'm excited to see it back on the calendar, but also excited to see more traditional tracks like Imola and things like that. I do believe we've got an interview, someone in the interview waiting room anyway. It's Ben Willis. We'll drag him in. Hello, Ben. I take it you're here for an interview. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me jump in.
It's always a pleasure. So, this test has been going on for quite a while. Obviously, by the looks of things, you've already done all of the running that you were planning to do. What are your assessments of how the test went, and your assessments of your prospects then heading into that first round in a couple of weeks' time?
Yeah, I think it's been a positive test for us. I get to look at it from both the driver side and the team manager side as well. Obviously, running straight racing and then doing a bit of driver work for Alpha Sierra. I think personally it's been really good fun. I wasn't planning to do these tests. I've been filling in last minute in the reserve role for Alpha Sierra, and it's been really good fun to drive. Had a lot of fun with it. The balance of the setup we've got is really good. Definitely a little bit we can find, I think, before Australia. But overall, we're, I think, a lot happier than where we were last year when I was doing a bit of work with the Drake guys. And then from a team point of view, all our laps are done now, outside of Stefan's just doing a couple at the moment. But again, we're happy with where we are setup wise. There's a little bit I think we can achieve, but yeah, I think overall in a good place.
And I was, you know, as someone who's driving for Alpha Sierra, a team that are new to Superlights after really having a coming of age last season in FS2, where they, you know, they did a fantastic job with Luke Mitchell taking that championship so easily, and then them taking the Constructors Championship very easily as well. You're someone who's got Super League Lights experience with your own team. Have you sort of cheekily nicked some of the setups that your team have been using, or how has that transition been, and have you been like at the forefront of aiding that transition for Alpha Sierra?
It's been pretty open. Not only do Drake and Alpha Sierra do a bit of work together, we're also working with Valley this year as well. So kind of between us, we've got a really nice network of setup sharing, but also offering like advice on maybe some of the more managerial side of the Superlight stuff. So thinking about upgrade paths and kind of like, especially when we're going through the bidding process at the start of the year, kind of offering ideas and support on, you know, what you should be doing with your bids and things like that. So it's been quite nice, I think, compared to the last couple of years. We've struggled a little bit in Superlights, but just Drake on their own with not having anybody else to work with. And certainly last year we were pretty lost on setup at times until quite late into the year, really. So I'm hoping this year having a nice group of us means that we can actually be a bit more productive when we're doing product testing and work together, and hopefully be able to hit the start of the season, you know, a bit quicker and a bit more competitive.
And I'll throw down to Ross in a moment for a couple of questions, but just one more for myself, or well, one more for now, unless you give me any ideas. But so as you know, someone who's relatively new to Superlights, I wasn't around last season. Looks like I'm going to be doing the commentary this season. those upgrades, how much of an effect do they actually have? For the benefit as well of the newer viewers, how does that sort of work, you know, and how much of an effect does it have? Would you say that having a poor car, for example, is that more damaging than having a poor setup? How does that sort of work? How does that entire process set itself up?
Yeah, I think so. All these tests we're doing, we're earning R&D points that we can use throughout the season to buy upgrades to the car. So we can upgrade, I think it's front, rear, and diffuser downforce, and then front, rear, and body track. I think they're the main areas you can do. I think you can also do like chassis and that as well. I wouldn't say they have a huge effect. I think we're probably looking maybe a second and a half from a like completely base car to fully 100% upgraded. So there's a little bit of time in it, but it's not loads. I'd say you probably get a bit more out of setup. But it is key that we do these tests. We also do like a 30-minute test session before each race weekend, so we can earn a few more points in that as well. And really, it's key to keep on top of it. We certainly saw towards the end of last season we had one of the more upgraded cars versus everybody else, and that did help a little bit with pace. But I wouldn't say it's an absolute deal breaker in terms of overall pace.
Yeah, that's sort of the impression I got and have had from being around for a couple of years, albeit not in SL2. So yeah, thank you very much. I'll hand over to Ross. I'm sure he's got a couple of questions to ask you.
That was
very insightful.
Hi, Ben. Just want to make sure you can hear me as well in the commentary box.
Yeah, no worries. Got you loud and clear.
Brilliant stuff. The main question I've got for you is, what's the goal for the team this season? I mean, you're currently sitting P3 in the standings, so, you know, the car's looking all right. You've got a strong driver lineup. I mean, are you aiming for championship? Are you aiming for, you know, race wins, podiums, strong results? You know, just discuss us through what the 2024 roadmap looks like for the team.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting when people ask this, because I know you can probably speak to a few teams down the grid and like, oh yeah, we want to go for championships, race wins. I think for us, we've always been of the view that we want to have fun, we want to compete, but at the end of the day, it's about having fun and having a good time. So if we can be consistent point scorers, that's absolutely fine with us. I think especially compared to where we started last year, as I was saying, with like lacking a little bit of setup knowledge, the first few races were pretty tough, to be honest. So it would be nice to be consistently point scoring, but I'm certainly not going to be putting pressure on either Jan or Tom to be something, you know, up there fighting for top 10s or podiums or anything. Very much down to them to just enjoy the racing, have a good time, and what will be really.
Well, that's fair enough. And looking at the calendar as well, what do you think is going to be? You know, is there any one track do you think may specifically suit your guys out there? Again, you know, we know the ability of both Jan and Tom, but you know, what's going to be looking good for you heading into 2024?
Yeah, I don't think there's any specific track that we probably highlighted and gone, you know, that's where we're going to focus on. I think a lot of that will come through upgrades, actually, in terms of where we go with upgrading the car, because you can specialise on either like adding loads of downforce to the car or looking at drag or like on the weight of the car. That's going to naturally help you at certain tracks, and maybe not help you as much at others. I know Tom is particularly looking forward to Australia. He's been at GPV now for, I think he was telling me it was like 11 years or something today, which is rather scary. So he's done many a lap around Melbourne. So I know he'll enjoy racing there. But yeah, there's no real focus track for us. I think it's just making sure that we can turn up to every track, have a like decent base setup, and be relatively competitive, and then see where we go from there.
Let's talk about Jan Dragoon as well. Obviously, he's not here with us today, or at the moment anyway. You know, I know he's a very, very strong driver. He had a very, very good FS1 half season last year. You know, took 2 podiums and a win in Baku as well. You know, what kind of made you think that, you know, Jan Dragoon is the driver that you want in your car? You know, was there anything about him that just screamed, you know, I need to have this guy? Or, you know, was it just, you know, just a kind of the perfect circumstance? He was looking for a team, you were looking for a driver, he was strong enough kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it was the perfect circumstance, really. We came into this year, we were always going to keep Tom. Me and Tom are very good friends, so that was always kind of a given, really. But we came into this year knowing that we needed another primary driver. And actually, Jan came on recommendation from Carter over at True North Racing. He suggested that Jan was looking for a seat, so I got in contact, and yeah, I think, like yourself, I was really impressed by his FS1 work last year. It showed that he's got the pace with the right car. So yeah, it'd be really cool to see what he can do this year. From a team management side, we want to try and provide the best car for both Tom and Jan. So I'll be making sure that we do the right upgrades, and we'll be working together to try and make sure we've got good setups going to every race. But yeah, really keen to see what he does.
Yeah, well, so am I. I'm very excited to see what Jan can do. And just one last thing, we've got half an hour left in the test session. Is there anything else planned for you guys in terms of running today? Are you all happy, ready to close up shop and call it a night?
I think we're pretty happy to close up shop. I know Tom's done his last quick run now that we've got all the mileage out of the way. I think Stefan is coming towards the end of his mileage. He's just coming to the pits now, actually. So he'll go out and do a quick run. And then I think we're pretty much done from our side. We're pretty happy with how it's gone. There's definitely some learnings and takeaways that we can look at over the next couple of weeks before Australia. But yeah, I think we're pretty happy with how it's gone.
That's brilliant stuff. Well, that's it from me. So I'll pass back to Tom if he's got any more questions. But I think that may be it from us. So thank you very much for joining us, Ben.
No worries. Thank you.
Well, Ben, we've got a few other people to chat to, so we'll let you go. Thank you very much. That was a very insightful 15 minutes or so. And we'll speak to you soon and drag him out of the call and drag in actually a driver who's at the top of the timesheets right now, Sandeep Singh. And Sandeep, we were talking a little bit about your prospects for this season over the last hour or so, as Maxime Bilou has a trip into the runoff area. He keeps the car collected, so he'll be okay. And I'll summarise to you, I don't know if you've been keeping up with the stream, I'll summarise to you what I said, and for the benefit of those who weren't here. Anyway, essentially for you last season, you had pretty consistent top fives, but struggled to find a little bit of consistency with those podiums, and you had a DNF that really took you out. In the end was the reason that you didn't quite get into the top three. However, new year, new season, you're in a position where Owen Magauji is out of the championship. You're driving for a team that are the reigning champions. We certainly think you're one of the championship contenders. Do you class yourself as a championship contender, and how do you think you're going to go about getting that this year?
I don't know. I mean, I look at the grid and I got I think in terms of who's probably favourite, it'll probably be Maggio at the moment. He's been looking quick in this winter break in some of the races he's been doing, and then I think you've seen this hot laps he's been doing on the live timing. I'll say Maggio is probably the favourite. I don't know how I'll do the season. I'm just going to take it race by race. Last season, despite where I finished in the championship, I still felt I just completely underperformed. Got quite, I say second half of the year, I just got very unlucky with incidents compared to the first half. I think first half I just wasn't comfortable with the car at all. Not in terms of sliding around, just couldn't get the front end into any of the corners. It just killed any could on my lap time. But this winter break's been alright. I mean, this mod's come out. I've been testing all sorts of stuff. I think we've got a solid base to work off, hopefully. But again, it is pre-season. I don't know where everyone else is going to be come Melbourne. I hope to be up there. I mean, I'm not going to say anything about the championship. I mean, at the moment, I like to get a back-to-back team title with my teammate Alex. Yeah, I mean, I was hoping me and him would get dragged in together, but yeah, here now he is.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I mean, got Alex as my teammate. I'm not quite on the same, and I'm really looking forward to working with him this year. It's been even the last few weeks, it's been really fun working with him. Actually, we're already getting along very well. And I mean, let's see what happens this season.
I guess I can say the same. I've never done this many laps in a short span of time.
I'll move on to the question that I asked Ben then. In terms of how do you summarise how this test has been? It's been going on for quite a while now, you know, since 4 o'clock this afternoon. You two specifically, you've been out in the later stages, especially you, Sandeep, the only driver into the 115s all afternoon long, from what I can tell.
Jack was, he just left.
Oh, okay. My apologies then. So one of two then, at least. But that's pretty promising pace at this early stage. Obviously, we try not to read a great deal into pre-season testing times because Fuji isn't a track we're going to be visiting and all sorts of other reasons. But it looks from the outside in that this test has been pretty productive for you guys.
It's just all about getting the mileage. I mean, we don't have the live timing, so we don't know what others did earlier in the day.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we've been having as well.
That's the problem right now. I mean, I bet someone's on like a 114. I mean, I've only gone out on the C4s. I haven't touched the C5s yet, so I don't know what others can do yet. I don't know what other drivers have been up to go on the C5s or what. I just the balance just felt pretty decent anyway when we just went out there. So I don't know how Alex felt, but I just went out, just drove. The car felt pretty decent, so that's a good sign, I guess.
Well,
Yeah, same. The pace was good.
Yeah, floor's yours. How do you feel?
Pretty good. The car was balanced. I just did my 28, actually 29, because I was caught off guard by my mom just calling me mid-stint for some reason. And I had to go after the stint immediately. Vincent could tell you. Yeah, I'm not home anymore. I am at my parents' home, so I have to watch now on the sidelines. But at least the test is done and dusted. So I guess we're gonna have to wait 2 more weeks for the first race of the season and hopefully claim at least 1 win, because that's the streak I aim for.
Yeah, well, I mean, I sort of know how that feels. I got a call from a university 5 minutes before the broadcast started, wondering why on earth they'd called me at 10 past 8 at night. So, you know, that was a fun 30-second conversation that almost jeopardised me being here. But anyway, 27 minutes to go. Obviously, your running's done for the night then, Alex, because you know, probably your parents' house, unless you fancy having a go on the old keyboard and mouse.
Oh yes, let me do that. Come on, let's go.
Sandeep, you're still in the server. I take it you said you haven't done any C5 running yet. I take it in the last 25 minutes, that's going to be your target then. Just get some laps in on the C5, see how that tyre is, and see about that low fuel run quality pace.
No, I don't know. I'm probably going to get a DM from someone saying go on a C5 or something. But no,
Yeah, what
like
is
a man
Vincent
who
waiting
isn't-
for?
Yeah, it sounds like a man who isn't thrilled to still be testing at nearly.
I'm actually
10.
I'm actually quite sleepy, to be honest. I came home from work and I was sat on the sofa, I was falling asleep, and then
We have something in common. I did an all-nighter
Yeah.
last night.
yeah, we did do some laps last night, but I'll think about it. So what time anyway if I just do a C5 lap. But like I said, I don't know what the others have done early in the day. Like someone could have done a 113, 14, but being quickest in pre-season doesn't mean anything. It's just it's all out. Well, the race day in the end.
Yeah, well, you sound quite sleepy as well. I'll pass over to Ross. Ross, if you have any questions for the two guys in the call.
Yeah, it's just kind of the typical questions from me of, you know, you're doing well in the test. I know Tom's already, you know, said that, but looking forward into 2024, you know, you said, Sandeep, that you want to be more consistent and challenging for the championship. I assume the goal for the team, though, is wrap up the championship for the 2nd year in a row.
I don't want to be more consistent. I'm already that, but I wasn't fast enough.
I apologise then for my mistake there.
I want to be quicker this year. That's the difference.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be aimed towards me. Like, I've got the road pace, but been working on that consistency.
Yeah, I mean, Alex as well. I mean, obviously you found your way into a top team, and that's great for you. A big congratulations. You know, you talked about consistency last year. You know, there were times when you were arguably the fastest guy out on track, but for whatever reason, it just didn't quite come together. So I assume you've put in a lot of work over the off season, and you know, this year you want to really show the world what you can do.
Yeah, I guess it was all about the skill issue, I guess. But yeah, I worked on it. I worked on that during the off season, and I cannot wait for the opening round now. I've got VFC this Sunday, and I've got GPV in the next week as well. So that's gonna be a way for me to prove that I can do something over a course of a race distance, and not just do 11 laps and then, oh no, I'm in the wall. Oh, unfortunate. Oh no. Man, I'm such a great driver. The wall shouldn't have been there.
It happens to the best of us, my friend. So I guess the goal for you again is just, you know, get that consistency nailed down, you know, keep the speed up, hopefully win a few races and challenge for the title.
Mm-hmm.
And that's brilliant stuff. That's brilliant stuff. Obviously,
I actually forgot Herlock was in Valley. I've thought, I mean, if he doesn't get disconnected, I don't see why he doesn't challenge as well for.
No, that's what I was saying earlier. I think if Joseph can get on top of his internet issues, he could. That Valet squad is looking very, very strong indeed. That could be a real challenge to you guys. Yeah, that's a good question. Would you?
Spark.
Yeah, don't forget Spark either. I mean,
there's two guys there that I know.
We've got a very.
You got the only back-to-back guy in the FS2 and the FS1 championship in the GPV history, I'm pretty sure. And then you've got Vincent Gurt, who's probably the most improved, one of the most improved drivers last year in 2023. So I don't see why he can't step up in 2024. I mean, if you check his results, when he done the emergency drives, he was very competitive as well.
I mean, we have a very, very stiff Superlights Championship on the cards this season, so, you know, I guess you're not quite expecting to walk to the title as easily as you did last year.
I guess there's some stress behind it.
I don't know if we walked to the title. I think Owen pretty much carried us to the title, so...
Well, he was still with your team, so, you know, he had a dominant season in my book.
I don't know how we would have done without him. Maybe we would have been behind TR. So it's going to be. I mean, we'll see this season how we would do. I mean, when we did have Owen, we finished 4th in 22 with me, Pascal, and we were up against Venturi, THR, and who's the other one? Blue guys.
I mean,
Blue. Yeah, I don't know where they are these days. I think they quit or something. But yeah, them.
So, going to be interesting to see what happens across 2024. Then that's it from me. So, unless Tom has any questions, I think we'll let you go and get some rest, the pair of you.
Well, thank you guys. We have got one more interview coming up, so we'll let you guys go and drag you out the course. Thank you very much to Sandeep and Alex for joining us. We're going to drag in Tyrone Frith from TTF Racing. Tyrone, welcome to the call and the stream as well. Let me just go through my notes here just to double check on something. So your team, 6th season in Superlights, 8th place last season. First of all, how has this test gone? And second of all, how are you feeling ahead of the new season?
Oh, pretty much a lot of the tests have gone quite smoother to some part. We had a bit of issue early in this test, sort of Axe have some issues with his pedals, but managed to get good old Josh in the car. In terms of our own preparation for the season, we actually feel quite confident that we pretty much rectify a lot of the issues that we had towards the earlier midpoint of the season. Pretty much confident that our driver lineup that we got, which is of Jan and David, or David, how we pronounce his name, I'm not really good with names. They would definitely do the goods for us.
So confident this season. With this test, has it given you guys a good idea of what direction to steer in terms of setup-wise for this season?
Yeah, we pretty much got a good idea in terms of where we want to go in terms of not just setup, but also for development-wise for the car itself. It's sort of been quite helpful for us in that way.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. I'll hand over to Ross because I'm sure he's bursting with questions.
Oh, I always am, Tom. I always am. Great to hear from you, Tyrone. Let's talk about your driver lineup for this season. You've got Jan Sikoria with you again for 2024, and he had a great year last year. But you've also brought alongside him Davide Zanini, who, he had a strong but inconsistent 2023. And some may be questioning why you brought him in. What did you see in Zanini that you think, that's the man that I want in my car?
I think when it comes to Zanini, he got a incredible pace about him, that's for sure. But the one thing that really shines out with him the most is his hard work and dedication. Throughout the last part of the season, he's always been the first person out doing the hard graft, doing the setup work, and helping us sort of develop the car. And I do truly feel that with like a full season getting used to the car, he will get better. And what is quite impressive with his pace is that what many people don't realise is he only just raced a few months on Alpha 2 last season, and he did feel quite a really good competitive pace, being his first time on Alpha 2, and I find quite impressive about him. And I feel quite confident that he will have a really strong 2024 if you pay mind to it, which I know he will.
And what's the team goal for this year then? I mean, obviously, everyone wants to be challenging for the title come the end of the year, but where do you see TTF come the checkered flag at the end of Sao Paulo?
I definitely see us improving on like 8th. It's not really where I envision the team. So our ambition with our team is always to like win the championship. That's sort of why we as TTF Racing go out to race, who sort of our main aim is to challenge for the title. But I want to get the team up into the top 5. I do feel that we got the ability to do it as a team.
Well, that is great to hear. Only got a few minutes left in the test now, just over 15 minutes left to run. Are you guys planning to do any more running this evening, or are you, we can see Joshua Dexter's out on track at the moment, but Zanini's been in the pits for quite a while. Are you guys all happy with how it's gone today?
Yeah, pretty much I'm happy with what we've got today. It's all about getting the deferment points, points being prices in terms of deferments, using like a really cheesy pun. But we're pretty much happy with how things are today. We will do a lot more private testing offline to work more on the setup towards Australia, and just quite for the season to get started.
Well, that's great to hear. I'll pass back to Tom if he's got any more questions, but that's it from me. Thank you, Tyrone.
No, I'm okay. Thank you, Tyrone, for joining us. That right now concludes our interviews for the next 16 minutes or so, unless anyone wants to join in at the late stages. So let's take stock of where we are with 16 minutes to go in this Super League Lights pre-season test. Just the one more to come. After this, of course, Super League on Thursday. Sandeep Singh at the moment is at the top of the order. His C4 run has put him 8 tenths of a second faster than Stefan McCready in second. Then it's Van der Voort in third. Willis and Zanini, your top 5. David Yunt in 6th position with Harry Smith just behind. Then it's David Wasserman, Guerra and Dexter, the rest of your order. 6.2 second field spread is actually quite a significant margin. Obviously, we're not expecting everyone to be within 5 turns for each other, but I would expect at this stage possibly a little bit more than 6.2 seconds. That might just be, well, that's certainly more than race running. That might just be a few people haven't quite got that confidence in the car just yet, Ross. And I think one of the things pre-season testing does give you the chance to do is constantly practice within that pressure environment of an actual open session. it's a little bit more than just the server being open in the week. You actually have the pressure of the stream and things like that. And sometimes when you're racing in your own private environment, your own test session, your own private test session, you don't quite have that pressure of everyone else being there. And preseason testing possibly the best opportunity to get used to, driving that car on the limit and finding where the limit of that car actually is in the very variable conditions that you'll see in a preseason test.
Yeah, absolutely. Not all the time left on the table with 40 minutes. At this point, I think we've seen most of the running. But yeah, like you said, again, we've heard it from Sandeep. Obviously, we want to try and take what we can from preseason testing. But Sandeep, he was just kind of saying, you just got to turn up and do the laps. Most of these guys have put in countless hours of private testing by now in their own servers with the teams. So we really can't take too much from this. You look at the likes of the Valley Esports guys who were running strong, but we were expecting a little bit more from them potentially in the testing session. Sandeep potentially is going to go out and do a run on the C5 tyres and really put the time in. But with 13 minutes and 30 seconds left to run, only 9 drivers remaining in the session, only 2 out on track in Florian Gaia and Joshua Dexter. So we'll have to wait and see what those guys can do. But yeah, like you said, Tom, it's just very, very different testing conditions to be on the on-track testing with the other guys at the same time. There is Florian Gaia, we haven't really spoken that much about today so far, but he's not really been here while we've been live. The owner of the Chaos team, he's been up in the Super League for a fair few years, 10 seasons there, which is an incredible achievement for him and really shows the quality of driver that he is. But 2023 just didn't quite go his way. Maybe he just lost a bit of spark, lost a bit of that passion. So he decided to make the step down into Superlights with his own team. And that could be quite interesting because, I'm sure you're aware, Tom, it's very different when you're racing for your own team when you are racing for someone else. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do, and maybe as he takes the step down into Superlights, although very, very, it's a very big championship, of course, but it's not on the same level of Super League, the top tier of racing here in GPVWC. So maybe he's just trying to reinvent himself, get that spark back potentially after a disappointing last season. I think he could definitely be someone to watch out for. Again, we know his ability on track. He spent 10 years up in Super League. To spend 10 years in Super League, you've got to be one heck of a driver. And although maybe the results, especially across the last few seasons, weren't quite there to show what he could do, he did finish 3rd in 2016 in the championship, but since then it's just been a steady decline. And he's coming out with David Wasserman alongside him as well, who's currently P5 and in the pits. And a very, very quick driver indeed. And he's already had 11 Superlight starts to his name. Last year finished 5th place for Valley Esports in Abu Dhabi, so he's certainly got the pace as well. I think Florian Gaia, this is going to be a very interesting year for him, Tom. It's not make or break, but it's certainly a reinventing year. He's taking a step down, not taking a step back per se, but it's a new environment, racing for his own team. I think this could be a very, very strong year for him, and one where he rediscovers his passion.
Yeah, you can't lose sight of, at the end of the day, what we're doing is giving up our Tuesday evenings to play computer games. It's understandable why some drivers tend to have burnout periods where they're not quite in it. And we're possibly in a period now in RFX2 esports as a whole, actually, where it is taken as a whole way less seriously than it was in the sort of peak of a couple of years ago. With the fact that we've got all these new games coming out left, right and centre, sim racing as a whole is in quite a difficult spot. And some drivers can possibly become a little bit disillusioned with that whole thing. And maybe for Florian it's a case of something as simple as Tuesday nights suit him better, or something like that. He wants to go race for his own team. He wants to have a little bit of fun. Fun is the underlying thing. You just want to have a bit of a fun race on a Tuesday night. And obviously he might feel that Super League Lights is the better place to do that, as opposed to being out and out fully in Super League. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw him jump back up, but you know, if you want to go full on and talk about this as like his quote-unquote sim racing career as a whole, then you could argue that actually this is quite an important year for him, because if he can't cut it, well, not necessarily can't cut it, but if he's not setting the world alight inside of Super League Lights, then the argument starts to be, you know, well, is he ever going to make that step back up? You know, once you're out of the party, getting back in, especially if we do start to see a trend back the other direction where, you know, people are starting to take Super League way more seriously. Again, not to say they don't take it seriously, but certainly I don't think it's at the levels it was 4 years ago. Then, yeah, that door suddenly becomes closed. You know, you're off the train, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a big year for Florian Guy ahead. Well, we say big year to see what he can do. It's not a big year in terms of, you know, it's make or break. We know his ability. We know what he can do behind the wheel. He's got his own team, you know, sat in his own car as well, which very excited to see what their livery is going to be when they do finally have the livery prepared. They are not racing as a school bus. That's just what they have here for testing. And Guy, he's currently running on the C2s or the C1s, the harder compounds of tyre. So again, not setting the world alight with his lap times, and just pounding in the laps towards the end of the session. Currently the only car out on track. So it will be interesting to see what he can do across 2024 as he makes his way back into Superlights for the first time in a very, very long time. 8 minutes left to go in this session. Sandeep Singh will end it on top of the timing sheets. Now only 6 drivers left in the server. David Junt has made his way out onto the track. He's the test driver for Chaos and reserve driver for this year. David Wasserman is in the other car for presumably the majority of the races. But David Junt, again, if Wasserman or Guy is unable to make one of the races, Junt is, well, he certainly knows how to pedal. I'll say it that way. So the team is in good hands if either Wasserman or Guy unfortunately are unable to make a race. I think what we can take from this test, Tom, as we're coming towards the checkered flag, you know, Road to Formula looking very, very fast. Valet Esports looking very fast. In fact, it's just everyone we're expecting to be quick is looking quick.
Yeah, indeed. Everyone we are expecting to be quick is looking quick, and we're in at the stage now. We've got 5 people in the session. I'd be surprised if we had a full server when we take. Oh, in fact, we had anyone in the server at all by the time that checkered flag comes out in 5 minutes time or 7 minutes time or so. But I think you've hit the nail on the head, though. I don't think we're seeing anything here that we weren't expecting to see heading into this session. And I think in a way that's quite encouraging, especially. Particularly for a top team, I should say, because, you know, actually we are exactly where we thought we were. And for the lower teams, it's actually encouraging in a sense, because, you know, they finally have that idea where, okay, this is where we actually are. Panic over, you know, we're not towards the back, we're not towards the front, but that's how we build over the next 6 months or so.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it's all going to unfold with a few minutes left on the clock. Florian Guy and David Junt, the only cars out on track at the moment. It was great to hear from everybody that we had to interview earlier, and great to hear from you all in the live stream chat as well. Of course, this season you'll have myself and Tom bringing you all of the Superlights action on Tuesday evenings / night / morning, wherever you are in the world. And it's going to be our pleasure to bring you the 2024 Superlights Championship, the second tier of GPVWC racing. Again, I'll just run through the calendar for you one more time in case you weren't here with us when I ran through that earlier. In 2 weeks' time, 12th of March, we are off to Melbourne for the first race of the season at the Albert Park Street Circuit, followed by a trip to Jeddah on the 26th of March, then off to Japan, but it's Suzuka, not Fuji, for the third round, before going to Shanghai in China for round 4. We go to the Autodromo Dino Enzo Ferrari, best known as Imola, for the round 5, and in round 6 we are off to the circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. Then we have the spring break, followed, and then we are back on the 18th of June in Barcelona at the Circuit de Catalunya, then off to Spielberg in Austria on the 2nd of July, then it's Silverstone, Hockenheimring and Spa-Francorchamps the following 3 races, then the summer break, then it's Monza, Baku, Singapore, Austin and Sao Paulo to round out the season. A very, very exciting year to look forward to here, and well, if today is anything to go by, it could be very, very exciting. We're hearing a lot of drivers looking forward to Australia, Tom, which I think is always great. Again, everyone always looks forward to the first race of the season, but a few drivers seem to put a lot of work in the off-season and seem to be coming into round 1 with some confidence.
Well, yeah, Australia, an increasingly popular track, especially since most people's gripes with it were removed in that redesign that it had a couple of seasons ago. I think 2022 it was changed. It reflected in GPVWC anyway, the change, and it's been quite a popular change at that. So I think everyone pretty pleased with to see how things are going over there. Other than that, I mean, I don't think there's really much to say on the matter. You know, everyone knows where they are now. You know, you've had that pre-season test. Everyone knows, okay, this is what we've done so far this season. This is how we're looking. This is how we're expecting to be heading into the season. I think the only thing a lot of teams will be mindful of is, you know, you'll always have those couple of teams who think, actually, already we're looking forward to next year, kind of thing, where they think, you know, this test hasn't gone to plan. We don't think we're particularly competitive, so we're now sort of waiting for how next year's going to be, and that's always the yeah, that's always a dangerous thought to get yourself roped into. I know I've been there well, far too many times than I'd like to admit.
Yeah, haven't we all? It's only the Chaos cars left in the session with 3 minutes left to go. Only Florian Guy out on track. So unfortunately, we've lost all the other times that we had. The live timing, unfortunately, we're having a few issues with that as Gaia pulls off a nice little drift there, coming through the tight and twisty middle section. Or, sorry, should I say, the section at the back end of the track. So it looks like it's going to be Florian Guy, the sole man, to take the checkered flag. Even if he does take the checkered flag, he will get a few more laps in. At this point, it seems like he's just running around for a bit of fun. He's not really pushing the car too hard. You can really tell he's just almost coasting it around the corners, so maybe just doing a long race run late in the evening. Of course, we do have the Super League pre-season test to look forward to as well. That'll be on Thursday evening on the 29th of February. Of course, leap year this year. I forgot it was a leap year until about 2 days ago, so wrap your head around that one. At the same time, the live stream will go up at 8:30 p.m. GMT, and you'll have Ryan Elliott and Caitlin Penny bringing you all of the action from the Super League pre-season test. But with only a few moments left to go in this Superlights Preseason Test, and then it is all eyes to Melbourne in a few weeks' time. And Florian Guy, who we are on board with again, not really pushing at this point. You can tell he's really not trying to extract the absolute maximum from the car, which is fair enough. You know, it's late in the day, it's late in the session. Obviously, Guy hailing from Germany, he's an hour ahead of us as well, so it's 11 p.m. at night for him almost, so maybe getting a bit tired. We already heard how tired Sandeep Singh was, and he's with us on UK time, so I'd dread to think what Florian Guy is experiencing behind the wheel at the moment. He's done a fair few laps late in the session.
And he's going to disappoint us here as well. He's going to squeeze one more in, is he not? He's squeezed one more in, certainly, but I mean, he's going to squeeze one more after that. He won't, because he's going to cross the line with 1:15 to go or so. So actually, I thought he was going to squeeze one more in after this. So last lap of pre-season testing for 2024 then for our SL2 guys. And well, Chris just joined the server, so well, I'm not sure he's going to get much running in before the end. And Florian Gaia, if he makes a mistake on this lap, it will be well, presumably the end of the test entirely. But as you said, Ross, he's not really extracting the most out of the car right now. You can't blame that being said. He's on the limit a little bit through the left-hander. That was quite a tidy way to take that, considering he's on the tyres he's on. Actually, it's not too much of a shame that he's a second down in that first sector. He's not on the limit this lap, but he's damn close in terms of how he's running it. But yeah, on the final lap of the test, it's been productive for a lot of these teams. The only thing I'd say, actually, testing-wise, I wish there was a few more, you know, little features added. I'd quite like to see, like, if you bin it in testing, you have
That's
to
it.
wait.
Oh, that'd be brutal, wouldn't it?
Seriously, I think if you lose a wheel or something and you can't make it back to the pits, or have a simple rule, if you have to escape to the pits, then you have to sit in pit lane for like 30 minutes or something. I think that'd be really cool. But Ross, checkered flag is out in the air, and by the looks of things, it'll be Florian Gaia to take it.
Yeah, the only man to take it, unfortunately. Checkered flag is out. Pre-season testing for Superlights is over. And Guy does not improve on the final lap of the day. He will immediately teleport back to the pits. Actually, no, he won't. He'll probably take the in-lap as well. That's it then for your Superlights pre-season testing. David Yun, we can see, set a 1:16.395. Unfortunately, we could only see the drivers that are in the server, their lap times. There were a few similar lap times set. Damian Kardash was in the 1:16 region. He set them on the C4 or the C5s. Alex Lahoe, he was setting 1:18s on the C2s. Vincent Gutt tells me that he did similar as well. And, we saw the likes of Sandeep Singh. He was the fastest driver at the end of the day. Quite a little bit ahead of everybody else. But again, he says not to look too much into it. And, he's the boss of Road to Formula, so I'm not going to... I'm going to take what he says as pretty literal. We'll have to wait and see what the true performance is for that team as we head into Australia in a few weeks' time. Tuesday evenings, of course, the night for Superlights. And we cannot wait to get the season started. Florian Guy, he will bring it into the pits, and that'll be it. One car out on track, and to take the checkered flag. Now it's no cars out on track, because testing for 2024 is over here in GPVWC Superlights. A very productive test session, though, for many of the drivers, as Gaia gets it a little bit wrong coming into the pit lane. And had some great chats with some team bosses and some drivers throughout as well. Some great insights to take from them. As the 4 cars that are in the server, those are the times that they did. Of course, a few more, well, I say a few more, a lot more times were set throughout the day. As Gaia throws it into the pit box, or into the garage, should I say.
Disappointing not to see any Iron Men going and doing like 200 laps in the session.
Yeah, well, they've probably done that all private sessions last night or something, haven't they? So this one, you just have to turn up and do the laps that you had to do. I think for a lot of them, a few drivers obviously stayed and did a few more. A few drivers stayed and did the 28 laps that they had to do and then immediately left, which is fair enough. But pre-season testing for 2024 Superlights is over. We wave goodbye to Fuji and we hop on the virtual airplanes back to the team bases. And of course, in 2 weeks' time, we'll make our way down under to the Albert Park circuit for round 1 of the season. And it is all to play for a very, very strong grid here in Superlights. After the domination of Omagorgi last year, it looks like we could be having a very, very close championship battle indeed.